Hi, guys. Welcome back. This fire thing in California is still huge. Days later, let's hear some reactions of people that are just starting to get used to the idea that they're probably not going to be seeing their homes anytime soon.
You guys, I'm genuinely at a loss. I don't know what to say. Where do we even begin? The fact that our state failed us, the fact that we don't have enough water, we don't have enough firefighters, we don't have insurance money. I'm just mind blown about what's to come. This is just the beginning. People have lost everything. Everything. When your home is impacted by anything, you've lost because your home is your refuge. So it's going to only downward spiral from here. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh my gosh, we will rebuild and yada yada. But we do have to keep going. Life does go on. We just have to figure out ways to never let this happen again. Policies need to be put in place. Californians need to be protected. We pay the highest taxes, and this is what we get in return.
Sometimes tragedy does bring folks together. I don't know if that smelt thing ended up being 100% true. I think it was one of those things where it wouldn't have affected this. At least that's kind of the latest I've heard. But if you've heard that it does truly affect this situation, let me know down below.
No, it is not their fault that the fire happened. Yes, it is their fault that we are not prepared and the fires are still happening and there's so much dry brush that everything keeps catching on more fire and that the firefighters don't have enough water or water pressure and that there aren't enough firefighters because the firefighters' budget has been substantially cut and they told you that the budget was cut and that they did not have enough resources or staff in order to prevent a fire. And also, why didn't you guys cut off the electricity in Malibu when all this stuff started going down? What? I need to know. What? Why? What are you doing? What are you guys doing other than taking your trips and chitty-chatting away?
You know, sometimes as people, we assume that the government has really intelligent people that just go into think tanks all day and think about scenarios like this happening. And we as people hope that our leaders have plans. But sometimes you have a situation like this and you realize that maybe they didn't really have much of a plan at all.
Yo, y'all want to know who would solve California's fire problem and within 2 days?
Who?
Ron DeSantis.
Rhonda.
Gavin Newsom can't manage a state. Clearly, we already knew that because of the homeless situation, the crime, and all that other stuff. Gavin Newsom knows nothing about tragedy and how to stop stuff from happening. Clearly, bad management. He can never be president. Ron DeSantis would have that fire out within 2 business days. 2 days. He would put men back in positions of, firefighting. And he would return leadership to years past where it was prideful. The DEI stuff would be out the window.
So I don't know if Ron DeSantis would fix it in 2 days. I think this would have been would have been trouble eventually for any type of government, even if it was Republican. But there's one thing that I just can't understand. The Forestry Service says that the best way to prevent these fires is to get rid of the underbrush and to do planned thinning of the forested areas. A lot of countries do that. And from what I understand, a few states do as well. For California to be unwilling to do that just seems really awful to me.
Captain Dan, that's the $1 million question. Why not just clear the brush? Well, here's the issue. One
Speak
of
of
the
the
big
devil.
contention points right now is the cuts LA County made to brush removal under the current administration. And it doesn't just stop there. Governor Gavin Newsom is also facing criticism for not managing the state's resources properly. These decisions have left high-risk areas even more vulnerable to wildfires, leading to insurance companies like State Farm and Allstate and even farmers pulling out. What do you think should brush removal and fire prevention be a higher priority in the budget? Let me know your thoughts below.
I think leadership should have said, "Hey, with all the insurance companies that are leaving the area and not providing fire insurance, we have no choice but to clear out that underbrush." They really should have done that for the people because if you're going to have the insurance leave, you're leaving a void there. And now you guys have to rely on the state because I guess you guys have the state plan now. Every time you guys call, you're going to be put on hold for 5 hours. And then at 5 p.m. exactly, everyone's going to get disconnected because there's no way they're going to be able to handle all the call volume.
Breaking news, it is now confirmed that Governor Gavin Newsom did in fact cut the fire prevention budget by a staggering $100 million. So this was a controversial take only a couple days ago, but that's because Gavin Newsom denied all these claims. He made a post on X claiming that this was misinformation and that we should really pay attention to who we listen to and get our news from. But now the New York Post has confirmed it. And not only did he cut the budget, but he cut it by $100 million. Just think about how much equipment and firefighters you could bring on with $100 million. I guarantee that water pressure wouldn't have been an issue. But then you got to think about it, because we're still waiting on an answer or a reason from Gavin Newsom for cutting the budget by this much. And I doubt we'll get one, because when you take a step back and really realize how incompetent that is, you realize that it's not incompetence, that it is a design, that it is the plan.
So even if you vote Gavin Newsom out, you're just going to replace him with another Democrat. You guys are so blue in your state that even if you get rid of these people, you're going to be replacing them with clones.
I hear you, but let me ask you a quick question. Who put him there? Who put him there? He said what he was going to do. For the last 10 years, he said what he was going to do. Nobody believed him. I didn't put him there. I voted for Kamala because she was the right candidate for this election. The people who put him there were the third-party voters. And
So the reason I showed this guy is because if you look up LA County, 71% of the people voted for Kamala Harris, and the last election, even more voted for Joe Biden. So when people say, don't make this fire thing political, it's kind of challenging as a layman that's just looking at it from outside the box, because the reality is you guys did vote for this. Sometimes you have to look up and say, my God, our leaders are buffoons, but you guys did vote for them. Even if all 180,000 of the people that lost their homes voted for Republican, you're still going to lose to the Democrats. There's that many more Democrats in California. So no matter what you guys do, you're going to be stuck with this probably for a long time. Don't threaten us with a good time, Jesse.
So it's real weird that all these liberals are on this site. How dare Donald Trump blame Newsom? Oh, God. Everything is Newsom's fault and the mayor. They cut the budget by $17 million to the damn fire department. Then they started that the fire department is a social science project so we can fight some fires with some diversity.
And that's another thing that doesn't make sense. You guys get taxed left, right, and center. And for you guys to get taxed so much and have to make budget cuts on top of it all, what a scam.
I mean, literally, the dumbest shit you could ever think you would hear. And so then you also have to where California did not restore the water. Gavin Newsom wanted to protect a damn sardine. Gavin Newsom wanted to protect a sardine. So that is why LA County is completely laid to waste like Nagasaki.
By the way, prayers go out to LA. I might be on the conservative side of the argument, but the reality is I know you guys are going through hell, and the pictures and videos I've seen does look like a bomb blast.
And all this when Donald Trump called it out 6 years ago, didn't he? And then he was on Joe Rogan's show before the election and said, yes, it's horribly mismanaged and the worst is going to happen because of the way damn Gavin Newsom is running his policies. He's not restoring the water. He is not funding. They are not funding the fire department. And Gavin Newsom gave a lot of the fire department equipment to Ukraine. And I'm sure he got a damn nice kickback for that. But so when Donald Trump finally calls out ineptness, because this is what this is solely on the lap of Gavin Newsom being an idiot. but Trump's the problem. Trump's the problem.
Orange
When
man
Trump
bad.
has pointed out the problem on two different occasions, one occasion just a few months ago, about how this very thing was going to happen because of the policies in that idiotic California.
So here's the scary thing. Now to rebuild, it's going to be hard because I hear you guys have to jump through hoops and get permit after permit, come out of pocket for those permits, to the point where Gavin Newsom has actually promised that he's going to try his darndest to cut through that red tape. Why do you have to cut through red tape? Why don't you make it a permanent situation where if people need to build or, dare I say, want to build in addition to their home, they should be able to. It's their home.
So you're telling me that California, Los Angeles, the Palisades, they're all burning down. People are without homes, they're without water because they let them all run dry. And then you have Biden being briefed on it on a news conference on live TV. And he actually has the audacity to say, well, the great news is that I'm a great grandpa. That is so out of touch with reality. Is anybody even there? Like, that is just crazy. I feel like I am in the Twilight Zone.
It is embarrassing to the American people. It does feel like the Twilight Zone. Thank goodness a national catastrophe like what's happening in the state of California didn't happen to our country over the last 4 years because this was our leader. This is what scares me about Democrats and the way you guys vote. You guys voted for a guy that doesn't know what day of the week it is because you guys were upset at the orange man who says rude comments. Then you guys blame the orange man for what happens in California when your governor and mayor didn't even dot their I's and cross their T's for you people. That's what amazes me about the Democrats, especially in California.
Look, Trump warned California 6 years ago, y'all. Check this video out.
Fires to be like they are. They're leaving them dirty. It's a disgraceful thing. Old trees are sitting there, rotting and dry. And instead of cleaning it up, they don't touch them. They leave them. And we end up with these massive fires that we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars for to fix, and the destruction is incredible. So I think California ought to get their act together and clean up their forests and manage their forests because it's disgraceful. What's happening should never happen. I go all over the country and I meet with governors. The first thing they say is there's no reason for forest fires like that in California. So I say to the governor, or whoever's going to be the governor of California, you better get your act together, because California, we're just not going to continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying because of fires that should never be to the extent. They were telling me in a couple of states, I won't even.
So think about what he's saying instead of hating him for the color of his skin. He does look a little orange, but there he looks. That's a nice color he's got there. So here's the thing. If he warned you guys 6 years ago, and I'm sure he wasn't the first one to warn you guys, don't you guys think it's a little weird that 6 years later we're actually dealing with this problem, yet none of you guys want to point the finger at the governor and the mayor whose job it is to take care of these problems?
This wildfire with Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass is pretty horrendous. And, you know, it's really horrifying, and I feel really, really bad for everybody. But you know what? We have to vote these people out of office. Gavin Newsom, you're fired. Karen Bass, you're fired. We don't want you in office no more. You guys don't do anything but mess up everything. That's what you guys are best at. And you know what's irritating about this? They all just get greedy when they get in office, and they just do things in political gain and financial gain for them to benefit without us being involved, importantly, in their concern, which is very disrupting to my soul because you guys work for us.
But again, it doesn't matter because even if you replace them, they're going to be replaced with people that have the same ideologies. So literally, you guys are stuck.
Biden says the federal government will cover 100% of the cost for the initial LA fire recovery. So everything involved in the fire, including the debris removal, temporary shelters, salaries for first responders, everything will be paid for 180 days. So a lot of people, including myself, was like, well, what about Maui? You know, they got a nice $750 check and then left to fend for themselves. But I never want to spread false information, so I made sure to look it up. I think it's been like a year and a half since the Maui fire, and actually they have given them $3 billion in federal support. And actually recently a whole nother year of temporary housing was approved to be paid for. And when I dug a little more, the Biden administration actually approved 100% for 180 days, just like right now with the LA fire. Trust me, I am not saying that Biden, Newsom, how this whole thing was managed is good by any means. But I'm just saying I don't think it's right to criticize based on propaganda. In terms of funding, Biden treated Maui just like LA.
So it sounds like Trump is trying to, or excuse me, it sounds like President Biden is trying to help people, and she did her homework, and it looks like Biden might have helped the folks in Maui a little bit more than we gave him credit for. If that is the case, good for you, Joe. So we mainly talked about a lot of people that are a little mad at Gavin Newsom, but on my walk, I'm going to talk about people that are actually a little mad at the president over this. So, if you don't mind, why don't you join me for a walk? Yes, I'm inviting you. Go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Hey guys, how are you? I was watching this channel called Bulwark, B-U-L-W-A-R-K, I believe, and YouTube channel, and they were talking about the fires and the stuff that's happening in California, but they were looking at it from a Democratic point of view, and the video itself was a little bit about how apparently during this natural disaster, instead of coming to the aid of California, because Californians, believe it or not, are Americans, right? Instead of coming to the aid of California, they were noting the fact that not only is Trump making Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass feel horrible, almost as if, you know, the problem is solely because of these two politicians, but they were bringing up the fact that even as far back as September, before any of this had happened, Donald Trump brought up these fires, and he was basically threatening Governor Newsom with the idea that, you know, he's not going to be coming to help him in the case of future forest fires. And then all of a sudden, months later, here we are, and there's a catastrophic forest fire. So they were just bringing up the idea that some are a little upset at the rhetoric coming from President Trump, or as I like to call him, the Orange Man bad. And basically Donald Trump, the only thing that he's been saying during this whole catastrophe is just how horrible Governor Newsom is as a leader. And they were bringing up the idea that that's not really the qualities of a good leader to do such things, you know, basically throwing the governor under the bus. She brings up this question: will Trump actually help or aid states not politically aligned with them? And they really feel that there's a good chance he won't. They also said that when Governor DeSantis down in Florida was dealing with the recent hurricanes, that one of the first things that happened was President Biden picked up the phone, called Governor DeSantis and said, hey, whatever you need, we'll find a way to get it done. So, and Governor DeSantis, to his credit, when that was happening, said that, hey, the president is maintaining good communications with me, and they have let us know that, you know, whatever we need, they'll be there. Because that's one of those things that I remember happening as well. Then her guest, and I'm not sure of his name, I think it was a regular guest because they were kind of talking like the audience would know who he was. But the guest brought up the fact that, you know, it's his experience over the last 8 years that Trump only does things and helps people when it ultimately helps Trump. Kind of bringing up the idea that Trump is probably the supreme narcissist that the world's ever seen.
And we all know, based on our experiences with narcissists, that a lot of narcissistic behavior kind of boils down to that. What are you gonna do for me? Now, as I'm going through these comments from this video, I want you to remember that I myself am a conservative, so I don't necessarily agree with any of these comments, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that do, and a lot of our venters are not necessarily conservative like me. So I just kind of wanted to share with you guys what other like-minded folks, politically speaking, with you are talking about. So I hope you guys enjoy this. One last thing that the guest and the Bulwark channel itself mentioned is that apparently right now Donald Trump's approval rating is the highest that it's ever been. So they, above anything else, including above Donald Trump, blame America. Okay? So just keep that in mind as we're going through these comments. At H Preston 1 says, I'm not sure I've ever hated anyone as much as I truly hate him, talking about President Trump. He does not care about anyone! Exclamation point. Thank you, Bulwark, for making me feel like I'm not losing my mind. You are keeping many of us sane and somewhat hopeful. If you are a Democrat, I would imagine seeing Donald Trump return to office can really make you feel like hope is lost and like the country is going backwards in some way, shape, or form. So I know that that's probably how a lot of you feel. If there's anything that you'd like to add, please do so down in the comments. Let's see if we can get a dialogue going. And if you're conservative or pro-orange man like I am, if you do leave a comment, maybe, I don't know, maybe try to be a little decent with your words. Because one thing that I have to admit is I usually beat up on the Democrats a little. But just remember that Democrats and Republicans and independents, we all make the world go round. And this is our country, all of us together, not just some of us, okay? So again, no matter how you feel, try to be respectful towards others down in the comments, but please leave a comment no matter which way you feel. At Citizen 530 says the Democrats need to stop being so polite. So apparently, Citizen is saying something to the effect of the way the Democrats kind of let Donald Trump and the Republicans kind of walk all over them when they're down. Something needs to change with that. Do you guys believe that? Do you guys feel like since this happened, instead of being pro-California and trying to help our brothers and sisters out there, do you feel like certain people like myself and Donald Trump and the Republicans, do you feel like we've all been kind of pointing fingers rather than trying to find solutions? Because see, if that's your argument, I can understand where you're coming from. You know, we can definitely point at politicians and we can point at certain things that happen. For example, right now, this winter's a little bit drier than it would normally be. Normally it would be really moist and you wouldn't have these many fires that are set to spark at any moment, right? But they always have these winds, and these winds can make a smallish fire turn pretty horrific and pretty big pretty quickly. So maybe what we need to do is we need to use this traumatizing event in American history, because I think we can all agree if all of LA burns to the ground, that is pretty traumatizing. Maybe we can learn from this. Jesse, you're being nice today to the Democrats. I know. Let's just see what they have to say here on all these comments. Does this mean that California is going to vote Democrat for the rest of our lives, no matter who the Republican candidate is? I don't know. But they're not going to be nice about it, damn it. Get that through your head, Republican from Nebraska. They are not going to be nice. Mountains for Laura says, as an ex-firefighter, you can't just beat a fire no matter how much water you have if a fire starts during the Santa Ana winds. You know, that might be one where you're right. Let's say you had all the water and all the resources in the world. I don't know how the heck 100-mile-per-hour winds feel, because I don't think I've ever felt winds over 55 or 60 miles per hour here in Phoenix. And when that does happen, it's a pretty windy day. From what I understand, right when these fires started going, guys, the wind was like 80 to 100 miles per hour. And from what I understand, that's the equivalent of like a Category 1 hurricane. So imagine you're out there, and instead of wind blowing like crazy, which would be difficult enough no matter what you're trying to do, including tying your shoelaces, imagine it's blowing hot embers your way, hot smoke your way, you know? You've got to be in that hot getup that firefighters are in 24/7, breathing through your mask apparatus. Meanwhile, you've got this never-ending fire, and you probably don't have too many 10 or 15-minute breaks that you get to take, right? I mean, that's one of those times where breaks probably go out the window. And so again, tough deal. I don't care who you are. I don't care how well prepared you are. How many times are you going to be fighting a fire that's surrounding you on all sides, and then couple that with the wind? I think we can all agree firefighters are superheroes, and God bless them. M8852 says, I totally agree with you, JVL, and I think JVL was the name of the guest, okay? It says that the American people are to blame. I have so much less respect for this country right now than I've ever had in my 55 years as a U.S. citizen. So here's a 55-year-old that feels embarrassed to be an American, and he's upset at us because collectively we, us, the U.S. citizens of this country, went ahead and voted in Trump. So apparently this gentleman was very much happy with Joe Biden's administration, probably wanted to see Kamala Harris come in. But here's the thing, I have a feeling that no matter who comes into power, whether it be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, Joe Biden is still the president right now. And for whatever reason, these fires are still out of control. But see, Donald Trump has a way of stirring the embers to the point where people are so angry that they can't look beyond the fact that there's literally a fire in their backyard, and they're angry at President Trump. And because they're so enraged with the Orange Man, they can't believe that there's people like me out there that actually voted for him. They wanted people like me and you to go ahead and just vote for Biden or Kamala, regardless of how we felt the last 4 years went. So while you hear me a lot of times moaning and whining that I can't believe people vote for these leaders in California and Houston and New York and all these places, right? But at the same time, there are people out there that feel the exact opposite of me, and I want you guys to hear their words. So this fire that's happening in California, this person doesn't even blame them on the winds, doesn't blame them on the lack of water pressure in the pumps, doesn't blame them on the lack of the extra reservoirs that they haven't built since the 1970s, doesn't blame it on Mayor Bass or Governor Newsom for not being prepared. This person solely blames you and me. So for that, I'm going to apologize for us and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we did that. We should have left well enough alone. Sierra High's finest, another fine Democrat from the state of California, says California would be the 4th largest economy in the world if we became a country. Food for thought. So I know a lot of these blue states are now contemplating the idea of, I don't even want to be a country with these people anymore. So it sounds to me like they're losing their Americanness, and they want to be known as the country of California now, or at least some of them do. I thought they were the 5th largest economy, but heck, if they're the 4th largest, we are holding them back, apparently. That's too bad. Glenda Graves, 1637, says, pass the word. We are wearing black on January 20th, so Venters, I expect at least some of us to be wearing black on January 20th. I might even do it myself. It says, in mourning for our nation, no march, signs, or speeches, just wearing black. So I would think we were going to wear black on the 20th to mourn the situation in California, but it's to mourn our nation. So apparently, again, this is one of those things where because Donald Trump is such a jerk, I think we should all wear black because the Democratic Party and the people on the left just really feel like it's a dark time in America that we voted for this tyrant again. It really makes me feel guilty, guys, because I like the Orange Man. I think the Orange Man is actually the best thing for this country. And I think sometimes when problems come to the light, such as, I keep hearing that in these forested areas, instead of taking out that underbrush and thinning out these areas of forest like a lot of other countries and even some other states do to prevent these forest fires, for some reason in California they didn't do that. Since California is a part of our country, on January 20th, we're all going to wear black and we're going to mourn our country. We're in real bad shape right now. It's because of the Orange Man. I forgot to write this person's name, but this person says, U.S. is the laughing stock of the world. Guys, I kind of felt like we were the laughing stock the last 4 years, but over the last month or two since the election, I've been kind of feeling like, hey, we're going to start going and changing things for the better. But I remember that when Kamala was running for president, she was urging people to vote for her so that they could experience change, which was really odd, because why would you want to change anything over the past 4 years, especially when asked if she would do anything different than Joe Biden? Her answer was no. So again, we are the laughing stock of the world, because instead of staying with her and voting for change, we decided to change and go for Donald Trump, which is just more of the same, evidently. So again, since we all voted for Trump, I think that we should all hang our heads in shame that we didn't vote for Biden again. At Kimberly Marie 7943 says it still boggles the mind that a portion of the country voted for another round of this clown show. Okay, so that was all of their comments. Guys, I don't know about you, but there's something that's very telling about those comments. And forgive me, I tried to be as polite as I could for the Democrats throughout that whole time. I thought I did pretty darn good. But here's the thing. Not one of them on this video said, you know what? I'm upset at our leadership here in California that they allowed this to happen. And I checked last night, I asked ChatGPT, he's my source a lot of times. I said, hey, how many people in LA County where these fires are happening, how many of these people voted for the Orange Man, and how many of them voted for Biden? Or Kamala Harris, excuse me. Guys, 71% of them voted for Biden. They voted for Kamala Harris. They voted to keep it the way it is. And Donald Trump's not a president yet. In other words, what they got is what they did actually vote for. Now, is that something that they want to hear? No, they've told us over and over that they don't want this to be political. But the reality is, you guys voted for this. And now, because you guys didn't want to try to be competitive for insurances, and I don't blame you for being upset for insurances leaving, but you got to remember, if they have no way to cover your guys' endless fires, then you got to kind of put yourself in the position from the insurance's point of view. Does it suck? Yes. Does it look like they abandoned everything? Yes. But they felt like they had no choice. Governor Newsom in California was not going to let them raise prices, yet everybody's homes cost so much more today than when they were first built. So imagine this situation here. If you had all the insurance companies covering these things, which I think we can all agree they should, but the reality is they would go out of business the next day and they would have to get federal relief, because I don't think you can just replace a small city of houses that easily. So again, I was just kind of shocked that out of all the comments, there wasn't one that said maybe we should look internally and ask ourselves, what the heck were Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass thinking? Apparently they weren't thinking about this at all. And you guys got to remember, Donald Trump has not been in charge of your state for the last 4 years. Gavin Newsom has. And even your fire chief, who's a woman and a lesbian, and I'm assuming she's probably a Democrat, even she said that the government there in California, not the national government, but in California, had been cut and let you guys down. So who should I believe? I believe I should listen to the fire chief, and I believe you guys should too. But this goes back to why the election wasn't won by your party. Instead of coming up with plans and solutions, your plan is, we hate the orange man. You have actually forced people that were on the fence to like the orange man. Because not everybody can just look at a guy that hasn't been in politics or hasn't been our leader for the past 4 years and say it's still this guy's fault. That might have worked 4 or 5 years ago. And it did work because Donald Trump lost the presidency to Joe Biden. But again, I think that if you would have never elected Biden in the first place, and if you would have had somebody that actually still was mentally fit to be in office, then you might still have a Democratic president now. With that being said, Donald Trump can threaten to withhold aid all he wants, but at the end of the day, he and the people are still going to vote to send you guys aid and relief. I mean, it always happens. I seriously doubt you guys are going to get zero federal aid out of this. But does anybody that's a conservative or a Republican like me, does anybody look at this and say, wow, in all of these comments, and I urge you, go look at Bulwark's channel. Every single comment was, I hate the orange man. I hate America. California should become its own state. Guys, to me, that sounds exactly like what I've been saying. The Democratic Party is getting closer and closer to not even really being on the same page as the average American. They are blaming us just as much as Orange Man. There is no blame at all going to Gavin. So let me tell you what's going to happen. Gavin Newsom will be replaced. Mayor Bass will be replaced, but they won't be replaced by a Republican. They'll be replaced by another Democrat that will ultimately let you guys down. This is the danger of a uniparty state. No matter what, the Democrat always wins. So whatever heartache you guys are dealing with now, because you're not close enough to 50-50, where you can actually elect a Republican or a conservative, you're just going to be forced to constantly have the same leadership because all of you guys are on the exact same page. So now that you guys don't have insurance, you're part of this California plan, there's going to be about 400,000 of you that need to do claims for a home. And you're going to call up and you're going to get stuck on answering machines. And then at 5 p.m., those answering machines are going to hang up on you and you're going to be extremely frustrated. Because when it comes to dealing with a business or dealing with the government is always going to let you down. And that's just the way it is. With that being said, let's hope that the president does work with your governor and hopefully we can get you guys some relief. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.